This is the USC Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, Tim Prangley of LAFB and Gabe Greenlee of the Trojan Blade.
Welcome back. Whether it's your first listen or you've been supporting our channels for a while, as always, we really appreciate you being here. On this week's show, we review the 45-31 victory over the Michigan State Spartans, highlighting key plays and players, giving you our overview of how the game went. We'll also talk a little about USC's future, which looks a little bit brighter. There were some dark spots, but we are doing better now. It also breaks a tie in the all-time record with the Spartans that was locked up 4-4. Now USC has that edge at 5-4, Gabe.
Yeah. Hey, Tim. That's nice to be 4-0. Never going to scoff at that. Overall, it was a pretty good performance. The offense is humming. The defensive line is legit. There are some concerns, especially on the back end, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, overall, very pleased to be 4-0.
Yeah, the 4-0 is really what everyone expected going into the season. And although there were some things to nitpick about, especially in the third quarter, I think most Trojan fans, and I know we came away from this game seeing much more positive. 4 weeks under Maiava, no interceptions, really reading this offense and making it move throughout those 4 games has been something that we weren't anticipating. But again, the 4 wins, 4-0, this is not a shock to us at all. This is where it starts to heat up a little.
Yeah, no, and I was very vocal during the offseason about my thoughts about Maiava, especially coming off that Texas A&M game. I did not think he was capable of becoming this kind of quarterback. So I don't take back anything I said because I believe my thought process was valid. I just think that this jump from Jaden is really unprecedented. Like, he's completely changed his play style. So major shout out to Lincoln Riley and Jaden for putting in the work, but just a remarkable turnaround.
And a big part of it has been the decisiveness of both his play and then also just his leadership, the jump he's taken, and that we're not going to rehash it. We talked about the fact that last year was kind of weird, taking over and coming out of the bullpen in game 9 for Miller Moss. It was difficult for him, but now there was definitely no chemistry with him and the receivers, but he is the captain of the ship. He definitely is firing on all cylinders and making this offense very comfortable for him and very easy to run.
Agreed. Yeah, he just looks like a completely different player. But before we get more into the game, because there is a lot more to talk about, in terms of where to find us, I am on Instagram and Twitter at the Trojan Blade. Same thing on YouTube, uploading a ton over there during the season. You can find Tim at Tim_Prangley on Twitter and Instagram as well. And he is over on LAFB. They do the Conquest Call-In show. It was every Wednesday, but that show is being moved to Mondays now. So you can look forward to that. Make sure you are subscribing to USC LAFB and checking out the website for daily content. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. And when you head over to Apple Podcasts, if you leave a 5-star review, it will be read live on the show. And we do have one new review to read this week. It is from 260 Trojan. He says, big fan. Love how in-depth you guys are in the episodes. Definitely make work go by a little faster. Any words of wisdom for trying to launch a USC social on YouTube? I just started yesterday and it's definitely overwhelming. And I was just curious if you guys had any tips for someone who is trying to get in on the scene.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, I mean, the best thing you can do is just to be authentic. You just be yourself and really try to be opinionated. You don't really want to be dishwater. You don't want to be in the middle. You don't want to be lukewarm, run-the-mill information. You don't want to sit there and just repeat stuff that you'd probably hear on a message board, right? You want to bring some analysis. You want to show that you know and you cover this team. You know what you're talking about when it comes to the players. You're talking about the coaches. We talk about how USC fits into the conference, but mainly make friends as well, because I know one of the best aspects of covering USC and being in this space is just all the wonderful people that I've met along the way. There's some really great people in this space. They'll be willing to help you out. But do, again, make sure that you are taking a stance, because there's nothing worse than going on social media and repeating everything else everyone is saying. Have your own opinion, have your own analysis, and let that guide you. But also make sure you find those allies and those friends along the way.
Yeah, I agree with everything Tim said there. The space has definitely changed since I first started. There's a lot more people in it. It's a lot more competitive. But honestly, the best thing I can tell you is put the work in. Like, don't take shortcuts. Make sure your audio is good. Make sure you know your shit. And make sure your work is your own. Like, don't use AI to write all of your stuff. Everyone can smell that from a mile away. It's really obvious who's doing that. And it's not a good look. So make sure you're putting in the work. Make sure your content is your own. And like Tim said, be social, make friends, make connections. There's so many cool people on USC Twitter. There's so many cool people on USC YouTube. Don't be afraid of failing. It's going to be hard. You need to accept that going into it. It's going to be a slow grind. But when you build it into something special, it makes it all worth it. Take
chances as well, right? You're not going to make friends with everybody, but you need to take chances. Take chances and make sure you have a thick skin, because I've talked to a couple of people in the space that were ready to give up. And I kept telling them, for every person that wants to take a shot at you, there's about at least 200 or 300 people that are following you and liking what you're saying. So social media is not for everybody. If you have an ego or thin skin, it's kind of hard to survive because people are people. And on the internet, sometimes you're going to find the worst of people. But overall, like I said, you're going to meet a lot of friends and you're going to have a lot of fun. So I'm excited you're just getting started out, because the beginning, Gabe, the beginning is where it's really fun. Everything's brand new.
Yeah, it wasn't so fun for me because there were like 10 people watching my videos. But starting out and building something is always a fun experience, when you're going to look back on and be fond of. So yeah, I completely agree with what Tim said there. But having said that, that is the only review we have this week. Again, guys, head over to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review, and it will get read live on the show. Now, Tim, do you want to talk about this game?
Yeah, this game went the way we thought it was going to go. I talked about it earlier about the fact that the 4.0 predictions that pretty much everyone had for USC. USC came out strong. Offense, as we saw in the first 3 games, just crushing it, just really doing great. And then the third quarter happened. But before we get into more of the actual game itself, we did get some news, Gabe, about Wayne Matthews III. You guys were watching the game. He was the player that was injured in the second quarter, that was carted off on a stretcher. Pretty scary moment when you see that the halo, wrapped around the neck. And I usually just read the faces of the trainers and the coaches. They're kind of trained in this, but watching the teammates is what I always do. And when they look worried and when they're on one knee and some of them are getting emotional, that's when I get a bit worried and nervous. But the update, Gabe?
Yeah, so this morning, Wayne Matthews actually tweeted saying, "Thank you all for your prayers and support. I'm doing a lot better now. I'll be back in no time." So that's fantastic news. He was able to fly home with the team last night. Just a very, very scary situation. And yeah, just very grateful that he's doing better. That was just so scary. And Tim's right. Like, the reaction of the Michigan State players, it was just, they were so emotional. You could tell how intense the situation was. And seeing both teams come together post game and pray together, that was a really powerful moment. And I thought that was very cool. And yeah, just very grateful that Wayne is doing better.
Yeah, it's a great sport. It's a violent sport. Scary things like this happen. I'm glad that it seems like in this case, we are going to have a happy ending to it. Well, speaking about the game as well, a happy ending. USC was able to pull us out. They were, as we talked about, able to win this game by over 2 touchdowns, 45-30. But there was that point in the third quarter where things got a bit dicey. This gives a game where USC was overcoming some injuries. There have been some issues in the secondary that we've been dealing with all season. But going into this one, there was a question mark if Jacoby Lane was going to be able to play. I saw in the warmups, Jacoby was out there kind of going through the motions. But I tweeted out, although he's out here, and I showed you a picture where everyone's all stretching on their stomachs and Jacoby just kind of just sitting there, that it didn't appear that he was going to be playing. So getting rid of your 1A, 1B, however you want to look at receiver is going to put a little more pressure on Jaden and Mekhi Lemon. And I think they did a great job.
Yeah, no, they absolutely did. If your goal going into this game was to find out who that no doubt wide receiver 3 is, you didn't really get that. But what you saw was Mekhi Lemon. Michigan State knew that the ball was going to go to number 6, and they still couldn't stop him. That's how high of a level Mekhi Lemon's playing at right now. The other wide receivers weren't slouches, especially in the blocking department. That's really what we saw from Jaden Richardson. He's like a utility baseball player that can come in and play second or play third or play in the outfield. Like, he came in and was primarily a blocking receiver. He did catch one ball, I think, got absolutely drilled on another. I saw some people giving him crap for not catching that ball. Guys, not a lot of people are bringing that ball in. He got absolutely lit up. But yeah, this was the Mekhi Lemon show from a receiving standpoint. 8 receptions, 127 yards, 1 touchdown, made it look easy at times. He got bracketed a few times and was just breaking open. I'm not going to say it was non-competitive, but it was pretty close. He was dominant. And we didn't really see much from the other guys. We saw DJ Jordan catch a ball. Unfortunately for him, he fumbled right after. And then Tanook obviously had that touchdown at the end of the half, brilliantly schemed by Lincoln Riley. And that was right after that injury. So the Michigan State defense was kind of scrambled.
And the thing about it was 8 different receivers. So we didn't have that second guy step up, but 8 different guys caught balls, but no one caught more than 2. But there were multiple guys with 2. Like you had Jaden really in control of this offense, throwing the guys that are open. But going back to Lemon, and like you said, all eyes were on him, and yet he still continues to get that separation that you pointed out a couple weeks in a row. And people talk about last year and the previous year with Caleb even, what was going on with this offense? Now, a big part of it was the offensive line. There's no doubt about that, because you don't have a guy in year 2 in Caleb come back off of a Heisman Trophy winning season, and then all of a sudden in some games disappear, and in the Notre Dame game just look completely lost. It was the issue with the offensive line, but it was also that you didn't have a lot of separations from your receiver. We had some great receivers, but they just weren't getting that separation that you're seeing from Mekhi Lemon now, and Jacoby as well. That is a quarterback's best friend, is that separation. When those windows get a little bit tighter, it makes those throws a little bit harder, and the game kind of speeds up for a quarterback. But when you have a 3rd and long, right, and you need that receiver, it's good to have a guy like Lemon that you can look up, and he's going to create that separation.
He's also going to get some yak yardage too. He's very hard to tackle. He's a very good blocker. No one really talks about that, but he's very Amon-Ra-y in that standpoint of his game. But yeah, overall from the wideouts, it really was just the Mekhi Lemon show, but the other guys did put in some good work as well. But I think when you're talking about the passing game, like, we just have to talk about Jaden Maiava. He looks completely different from last year, like we touched on in the beginning of the show. But 20 of 26 on the day, and that's what it felt like watching live. He was in complete control, like you said, complete command, very calm, reading the defense. Now, something I said on Twitter that some people, I think, misunderstood is I said that Jaden Maiava was not being Superman. He was being a point guard. Now, I think when people hear point guard, they assume game manager, and that's not what being a point guard is. Being a point guard is accurately distributing the ball within the confines of the offense, spreading the ball out to a lot of different guys, not just locking in, and just being an overall playmaker. Like, what I meant by that is he's not Caleb Williams. He had that one Caleb Williams play, but he's running the play that Lincoln Riley calls. That's why this offense looks so in sync, so well oiled. That's why it just looks so easy right now. Lincoln Riley's calling the play, and on the field, Jaden Maiava is an extension of Lincoln Riley. They're seeing the game the same way, and we saw that in this one. The offensive line played very good despite the injury to Elijah Page, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But I think this performance from Jaden Maiava really spoke volumes to how much he's grown.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. He has shown great strides, especially his pocket awareness. He doesn't seem like he loses. There were a couple times last year, the infamous backwards pass, the double pirouette, against, was it Notre Dame? I can't remember. That where it just, like, the game didn't seem like it was slowing down like it is now for him. And I said it in the offseason, what I wanted to see from Jaden was poise, and you are seeing that. And now that does come with the fact that he's getting a pretty nice clean pocket. His uniform's pretty damn clean most of the time. But because he made that beautiful escape play, I mean, he's done that in the past. He did that. I mean, I'll never forget the play. One of my favorite plays ever by Jaden is as he's rolling to his left, he makes that laser throw to the back of the end zone, and then in the UCLA game. Yeah. He makes these plays a lot. But make no mistake about it, it's just not fair to compare him, especially his legs, to a guy like Caleb Williams. We hear people saying that, and it's just not accurate. No, but it's not to say that he's not athletic, that he can't move in the pocket very well. He can't escape trouble. He does that as well. But he's not going to be that Kyler Murray or the Caleb.
He's
Williams
not a running quarterback.
He's not a dual. I mean, I heard someone again say he's a dual. People talk he's not a dual threat quarterback. He's not a dual threat quarterback. He is a very athletic quarterback. And there's some that's, again, you don't need to have to be a dual threat, but you need to have the athleticism to run truly and authentically run that read option, which is allowing that along with that jet sweep, that whether it goes to Lemon or not, is loosening up that second, level, is opening up the running game for Eli Sanders to, for those holes. It's helping out the offensive line, thinning out that second level. It's allowing Waymon Jordan to break some of those longer runs. There's a lot going in on this running game that is helping. That's why it's so strong. And a lot of it is to do with the type of quarterback Jada Maiava is. And I said last week, you needed a couple of yards, give it to him. He's 240, 6'4", 230, 240. Give him the ball in those situations. And you saw it on that little, the tush push under center at the goal line. Put Tanook Hines in motion. Someone talked about on the live show today. Put him in motion and have him push through. I mean, it's brilliant. And just stop short of trying to make Jada Maiava Superman, trying to make him someone he's not. He's Jada Maiava, which again, he's showing why Lincoln Riley had the confidence in him at not going into the portal. There were a lot of people, including myself, going, "Oh wow, we're putting all of our eggs in the basket of Jada Maiava. I hope this doesn't come to haunt us." And it's great that Jaden and obviously Lincoln saw something in Jaden that makes me know that he is a playoff caliber quarterback.
Yeah, but can you honestly recall a player that changed his play style, his production, and everything like that so much over the course of one offseason?
No.
Because I can't really think of one, because it's like a possession receiver all of a sudden becoming a burner. Like, it's that big of a jump. He was erratic last year. He made really bad decisions. He didn't know the offense very well. He wasn't comfortable with himself being a leader. And now everything has completely flipped on its head.
Actually, I can think of somebody. Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer made that leap where it maybe had to do with, obviously you're bringing in Norm Chow, getting rid of Hackett, the Hackett, the 150,000 page playbook of Paul Hackett. But also we've touched on this before. Jaden, I talked about just earlier. This was not 100% Jaden's team last year. And what we saw from Jaden was a guy coming in cold out of the bullpen. Probably not even enough pitches to warm up. Yeah. So I can understand it. And then if we're going to keep saying that Lincoln Riley is a quarterback whisperer, if we really think that Heward is a good quarterback coach, this is what happens when you have good coaching. We're seeing it right now with the defensive line. You let talent be coached by superior coaches, and this is what you're going to see. So I think the fear on my end was what you were saying is he wasn't a brand new quarterback. He did have some time, and at times, you guys, even the most ardent supporters of USC or even Jada Maiava himself, there was a lot of questions with some of the way that how Jaden was seeing the field last year. But make no mistake about it, there are very few questions at this point.
Yeah, and that's why earlier I said that I stand by everything I said last year and during the offseason, because I believe, based off what I saw on tape, what everyone saw on tape, that my concerns were 100% valid. Like, some of the decision-making was just really, really poor. This is an unprecedented sort of turnaround. Like, you see guys talking about him like Yogi Roth. Yogi literally said he does not recognize the player he's seeing right now because it's just so different from last year. And that says a lot about Lincoln Riley, but it says even more about Jaden Maiava. I can't even imagine the amount of work he had to put in to get to this level, just mentally knowing this offense, because he's on a way different level. Like, he's seeing things almost in slow motion. Now, he wasn't perfect yesterday. No quarterback is, but he was just so efficient, so effective, so accurate. One comp, not from a play style standpoint, but just from an offensive fit that I threw in. I said it in my instant reaction, but I said that Jaden Maiava is to this offense what Dylan Gabriel was to Oregon's last year. Like, Dylan did what Will Stein wanted. Jaden Maiava is 6'4", can move pretty well, and has a very strong arm. He's not a game manager, but he is doing what Lincoln Riley wants. Lincoln Riley has a picture in his head of how he wants the play ran, and Jaden's doing it on the field. He is not ad-libbing. He's not throwing the check down when it's open. Like, he's just doing a lot of very good things right now. I'm very pleased with Jaden overall.
Another thing besides having that separation we talked about with Lemon is having a strong run game. And the thing that ties the two together is whatever Hanson's doing with this offensive line, more kudos to him. It's looking really, really solid. But then the run game, and we will get to that later. But this is a good point. And so we're talking about Jaden's development and how smoothly he looked in the game yesterday. Let's talk really a little bit about Lincoln Riley and Lincoln Riley's, I'm not going to call it evolution. during the press scrum last night, it was a pretty funny moment. Connor Morris had asked, if he's got his slider back, and Riley right away said, I didn't know I lost it, or something along those lines. And everyone started cracking up. And I think this is when all the pieces come together. When all the pieces come together, Lincoln Riley did not forget how to call a game. He didn't know how to construct a game plan to beat even the best defenses. He's shown it time and time again. That now that he has the pieces in place, this last game, I'm sure everybody, the most ardent critics were happy to see 37 rush attempts and 26 passes, Gabe.
Yeah, I know I was. I mean, when you have 18 carries for Wayman Jordan, 16 for Eli, that's just beautiful numbers to see right there. But while Lincoln Riley might not have lost it, there were times last year where it sure seemed like he did. The Washington game comes to mind. You're going up to Seattle in the rain against one of the best pass defenses in the country. And what do? We throw it 50 times. Like, things last year didn't make a lot of sense. We weren't balanced. And then you see the game tonight, or last night, I should say, and we ran the hell out of the football. Like, things made sense. Everything was flowing together. Lincoln Riley's play calling is just on a different level right now. Michigan State did not know what was coming next. We were so balanced. They were completely confused. They were guessing. Like that play to Tanuk, that touchdown at the end of the first half. Now, I know their defense was completely rattled by the injury, but there was so much going on. Jaden knew that Tanuk was going to leak out the back end, and he sure did, and it was wide open. There were things like that happening all night. And as good as Jaden was, Lincoln Riley was just as good as scheming stuff wide open for him. So I definitely think Lincoln Riley has his swagger back, and he can say he didn't lose it, but at times he did last year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Not saying he forgot how to call plays, because he definitely didn't have that happen, but he's much more that 2022 cocky Lincoln Riley right now, and that's the guy we've been missing for the last 2 years for sure.
I might be getting risky here, and I know the critics will come out.
Hey, Tim, I'm never going to forgive you for being such a bootlicker. Never.
But sometimes when you're calling plays and you run, I don't know, something, it's called an RPO, a run pass option, and you're looking at what the defense is giving you, and then you're relying on your quarterback to make the decision: are we going to run? Are we going to pass? Based on the defense, you're going to run into situations where do they trust the offensive line? I mean, in that game, and I totally agree. Why were we not running the ball in the rain up in Seattle? But the pivotal play at the end of the game, USC pretty much lost on, is we had an offensive lineman double team someone, let the linebacker stop right at the middle and stop the play in the backfield before it even got started. So sometimes you could have all the swagger in the world, but if you don't have the pieces that make it work, then that just becomes stubbornness. And I don't know, a lot of people, and I know I'm in the minority, I think Lincoln Riley truly wants to run the ball. I mean, I think most coaches want to be able to just run the damn ball. And the old adage is there's a lot of bad things can happen when you throw the ball, right? And so it's better to run the ball. And if you consistently can run the ball the way USC is doing in these first 4 games, I get it. I know who we played, but I think that these backs, Jordan and Sanders, are special backs. I mean, with the exception of the Irish, who have that combination of Price and Love, I don't think there's another running back room that is at least not in the conversation. USC is not in the conversation with. So having that talent, having this offensive line finally build the depth and strength and ability that it has, I think that's allowing whatever swagger that he has to show. So I guess that's my best way of saying it before I get the bootlicker comments.
Well, you are a bootlicker, let's be honest. But and I do think that Lincoln Riley wants to run the ball, but I think at times he just forgets to run the ball, or at least he did last year, because I don't care if you have an RPO called, just call a damn run. When you need to run the ball, run the ball. It's not that complicated. So I'm not saying you were giving him a pass, but you were kind of giving him a pass. So I will say that we need to see better from Lincoln Riley, and we are seeing that so far this year, which is a good thing. But you brought up the offensive line. I do feel like we need to touch on the Elijah Page injury.
And really quick before we move on, though, I'm saying subtly that our offensive line didn't allow us to run the ball as much as we could. I'll leave it there. That's last year.
I was going to say, but yeah, we should talk about Elijah Page before you go on and do any more bootlicking.
This podcast is over.
So I guess I'll talk about it. Elijah Page, it appears during a PAT attempt that he tweaked a leg or an ankle, or a knee. I have no idea, something lower body. And it was very awkward. And he limped off the field, and we didn't see him again for the rest of the game. We didn't get any clarity post game in the press conference. Lincoln Riley gave a cookie cutter answer that doesn't really mean anything. So when you have a left side of the offensive line like Elijah Page and Tobias Raymond that were playing as one of the elite left sides in the entire country, it's a really massive, huge loss if it's for any amount of time longer than this game. We obviously, Illinois kind of got exposed in a way, but I don't think that's going to be a cakewalk like a lot of other USC fans do. And Tim, I know you agree with me, but yeah, we have to hope that Elijah Page is going to be back. The entire line got reshuffled, but yeah, Tim, what are your thoughts on Elijah Page?
Without a doubt, he's your best lineman, and anchoring Jaden's left side against Michigan State. Their pass rush is not the most stout group to begin with, but as we played the more difficult defensive lines, front sevens, I don't know if we talked about on the podcast or we talked about earlier, the fact that we saw Michigan getting home with 3 against Nebraska. Now, how good is Nebraska's offensive line? We don't know, but allowing that to happen, allowing them to get even with 4, right? Not having to bring anyone extra is going to put added pressure on the receivers to get open, pressure for Jaden to throw into tighter windows. And we know that, Michigan and Notre Dame are going to, and the Ducks are going to have better athletes, not only up front, but also on the back end. So getting and having our offensive line healthy, I really like the rotation, that the starting line that we had. Now, that being said, I am a lot more bullish because, again, bootlicker, but I think anyone that watched that game yesterday realized that we weren't playing, we weren't playing Georgia Southern. We weren't playing, Missouri State. That was a Big Ten defense that we were playing. They were underhanded at linebacker. Yes, I will say that as well. But the way that line held up, it does speak to the depth. I don't think that SC goes farther than 7 deep, to be honest with you, that I'm fairly comfortable with. I mean, I don't mind Micah and Hayden Treater coming on there and filling where they want. But I think for those games, the games where Jamal said, if you guys caught our live show today, there are certain games USC has to bring its A game too. And the only way you can bring your A game is if you bring your A team with you. And we're giving Jaden a lot of love, and we should. We're giving these running backs a lot of love, and we should. But we all know that all starts with that offensive line. So therefore, it could also unravel with the offensive line. And I need those guys back, definitely. The good news is before Michigan, when we get done with Illinois, we're going to have that bye. So that gives SC a little more time, while Lincoln Riley kind of dismissed it like it should be an issue that he shouldn't work through. He wasn't clear, and I don't think we're going to know if Elijah's playing until they release the official injury report next week. So my official answer is I like our depth. I like the way they played yesterday, but when we get into the more difficult games, the 3 that are pivotal, all of them, I think Nebraska was going to be a difficult as well game on the road in Lincoln. So yeah. I would like to see a full group there. But the Iowas, the Northwesterns, the UCLAs, I think the line we saw yesterday is going to be more than adequate for that. And quite frankly, I would like to see that group go up against some of these tougher teams. But I'll rest a lot easier knowing that we have our best lineman and our left tackle, our anchor of the line, back here very soon.
Yeah, so when the line got reshuffled due to the injury, Justin Tuanu went from right tackle to left tackle. Micah Banuelos slid into left guard. Killian stayed at center. Alani Noah stayed at right guard. And Tobias Raymond moved from left guard to right tackle. And what I thought about them on the day, I thought Micah came in and did a very good job. Very solid in pass protection. The entire line was okay with run blocking. It wasn't our best performance in that sense, but I thought everyone did a pretty good job in pass pro. Justin, I don't think is ready to be a big-time blindside left tackle. Not yet. He's very talented. You guys know how high I am on him, but I just don't think he's at that level quite yet. Tobias did a good job at right tackle. He's definitely a better guard. I was saying that heading into the season, and I think he's proven that on the field. Just a much more natural fit there, in my opinion. And Killian inside at center, I thought he was okay. He's had a few really bad reps the last few weeks where he kind of gets blown up. Yeah. And he's not the biggest guy, so that's going to happen from time to time. We know that going into it, but he's your solidified center. I mean, there's still people in my comment section asking about Big General. If there's a position battle, there's no position battle. Killian O'Connor's the guy. They're not rotating anybody. So he's who we're riding with for the rest of the way. But once again, I do want to shout out Alani Noah. You guys know how hard I've been on Alani. Tim, you know, for the last 2 years. And I have to give credit where credit's due. He's a guy that's completely changed his body. He's moving much better than he has at any point in his young career. He's seeing it better. Are there still a few mistakes a game that you want to get cleaned up? Of course, absolutely. But he's playing the best ball of his career. And I'm just very pleased with his overall development. What did you think about the reconfigured offensive line for the remainder of that game?
Yeah, I think they played well. I think that, you know, both Justin and Tobias, they have the frames, right, to be your prototypical bookend tackles.
Yeah.
Yesterday at the game, someone asked me, "So is Roy Banuelos a friend of yours?" Well, I know Roy, and I think he's a great guy. He's like, "Yeah, because you're always talking about Micah." I'm like, "Yes, that's true as well." But if you guys remember, I was high on Micah before I even knew who Roy was. So that's not that part of it's not accurate. All these younger guys, I call them young now. I mean, like as far as inexperience, but they're getting that experience, and you're seeing it. You know, when we talk about the secondary, you'll see that. We talk about the linebackers. These guys just need to get those real game reps where the bullets are flying. And I think that Micah, you and I always argue on this one, but I think he moves extremely well. The one thing I want to see him is increase his strength, you know, get to know the system, get his reads right, and get to that second level a little quicker. But I also, you know, if I'm going to be critical of him, I got to be critical of Justin. We talked about Justin sometimes. His quickness is there, but his straight line speed, which you need kind of in this offense to get upfield, is also kind of sometimes questionable. So with Micah, I don't think it's getting there. I think it's just maybe some indecisiveness. And I think that's going to come, that comfort will come with experience. I really do. So overall, I was completely happy with it. And we didn't talk about Hayden Treater. And I think Hayden can also come in and will be pushing for positions along the line the entire year. I think he's just too talented, too strong, too physically gifted not to be part of the conversation. After that, we're talking about guys that are still developing. And so, I mean, overall, we were worried about the offensive line coming in, but you know, if I'm looking at report card wise, what we've done so far at this offensive line position, position group, I don't think any fans could be unhappy. There is room for improvement, but right now, as long as we have that starting offensive line as we go and we welcome Michigan here to the Coliseum, which is a huge thing, I'm feeling very confident. And as a matter of fact, I'm be very bullish on the win if we have our starting line.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to have Elijah for that game. He's just too important, but we have to do it sooner rather than later. And I'd like to end more on a positive note. So should we have the cornerback discussion now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh boy.
It's been all over social media. I even heard a little bit, you know, I'm being on the sidelines, hearing it from the crowd a little bit. I think people are starting to have concerns about last year, which was crazy because last year on the team, we had some depth issues and some talent issues and some inexperience issues across the defensive line. Well, it seems like we've completely fixed that in spades. We're doing really good on that level. But I think this team is absolutely missing the stickiness of Greedy Vance. I think that they're missing Jalen out there as well. So, you know, having Jalen Smith and having Greedy Vance in that secondary, I think we're kind of seeing the holes that they may have been covering up. And while I like our guys, and I think that Carlos has made huge strides, it just seems like there's the communication, the obnoxious communication that we've been talking about. It just seems like it's not translating to the field in these games. The zone, it just seems like guys are uncertain of where to be. And we were looking at some of the stuff, and sometimes even Kamari seemed like maybe he was in the wrong position. So I'm a bit concerned. I'm sure I've got an idea of where you're going to go with this, but I don't know if these guys are seeing the field and they're hesitant. They're not playing aggressive. They're not playing sure at full speed. It's almost like they're hesitating, and you hesitate for a split second with the receiver, and they're past you.
Yeah. So if you follow me on Twitter or watch my instant reaction, you know where I stand with the cornerback room. It's bad. I'll just be honest. It's bad. Like, DJ Harvey was brought in from San Jose State to be a key contributor, if not a starter. That's a swing and a miss. Very nice kid, very nice family, but swing and a miss there. He is not at the level to play in the Big Ten, unfortunately, at least up to this point. That could change, but it's been a rough go of it up to this point. DeCarlos Nicholson, while a very good number 2 or 3 option, is not a number 1 corner, and we're seeing that over and over again each and every week. Really struggling in man coverage. He got twisted around in this game a few times, just like we saw with Marcellus last week. Now, speaking to Marcellus, I feel like he's getting a brunt of the hate from the USC fan base. And I actually think that he was okay in this game. He definitely had some iffy moments, but he's not this catastrophic disaster that everyone's making him out to be. I liked what we saw from Braylon Conley mostly. Again, a few iffy plays here and there. But if you're going to have a USC corner right now come up and play press man, Braylon Conley's the only one that I feel good about doing it. Now, Chasen Johnson, a lot of people saw it at the time, but I saw a lot of people downplaying that injury. That's a massive blow. Like, it's a huge blow for how D'Antlin wants to play defense. We don't have press man corners on this team. We just don't. Like, Marcellus isn't that. DeCarlos isn't that. Harvey isn't that. Chasen Johnson was not only experienced playing as a true freshman at Central Florida, he was experienced playing press man. He's very physical off the line. He's sticky in coverage. He had a few iffy moments too, but he was coming back from injury. So losing him for the entire year is a big blow. Now, the secondary at large, like Christian Pierce is not a coverage safety. He is a come down, fill the hole, light you up safety, and he's very good at that. But you don't want him to be in that center field role. On the USC tailgate show, Suet Cravens called Bishop Fitzgerald bipolar Bishop. He said he's either giving up a coverage bust or he's making a crazy pick six. So there are communication issues in this secondary. It's not just the corners. And like Tim said, we're seeing Kamari Ramsey make mistakes. He's playing out of position. He is not a nickel. He's just not. Now on paper, if you're talking about the skill set, could he possibly play there? Yeah, sure. But what kind of guys does D'Antlin like at nickel in this defense? He likes Jalen Smith. He likes Greedy Vance. What do they have in common? They're shorter. They're smaller. They're more nimble. They're more agile. Kamari's production has gone off a cliff, and he hasn't been playing poorly, but we miss those havoc plays. We miss his production, his tackling. He needs to be back in that more centralized position where he can go sideline to sideline, not being restricted to one side of the field because he's playing nickel. He's in man coverage. He's down on the line. So overall from the secondary, it was just a rough day. I mean, looking at what Aiden Childs did from a stat standpoint, he was 12 of 21, so only 12 completions, but 212 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Now, Marsh, the wideout, was like at half speed in this game. He was really banged up. Don't even know if he should have played. So we did do a good job on him from a number standpoint, but yeah, the secondary is just a major concern, red flag. Any word you want to put on it, I'm sure it's valid and it fits. But yeah, that's what I thought about the secondary. I don't know if I'm being a little harsh, but it was just iffy.
No, I mean, Childs, too. We talked about this about explosive plays. I mean, explosive plays are part of the game. You can't just cut those out. But if you do, 2 of those plays, 2 of the receptions, one being that long 75-yarder, which what I thought was pretty good coverage, just got tangled up. And was DJ Harvey, right? Fell down, and it was decent coverage, and that stuff just happens. And then the other long play, you take those away, that's almost half that yardage. So overall, I mean, overall, I think they tightened up the underneath stuff a little bit more. I mean, it's not they were going for it, but it looked like the pass rush was just killing it. The answer to this is going to be the opposite of what it was last year, right? We need the guys like Jalen Smith. We needed Greedy Vance just to be and Kamari Ramsey just really just up and taking care of stuff on the back end, because we were having tough, or at least difficulty, getting to the quarterback with a consistent pass rush. Now it looks like we're getting that consistent pass rush, an elite pass rush.
Yeah.
But if you have someone doing a quick drop and just airing that ball out, knowing that there's gonna be a busted coverage here or there, and you guys, they're getting film on our guys. They're getting film on our secondary, and I'm sure they're looking at, maybe even in this game, and Jonathan Smith is a great football mind. I'm sure they saw things on tape that they exploited on Saturday, and it's just going to happen. It's a cat and mouse game on both sides, the defense and the offense. And USC is going to have to clean up these things. And one of the pillars of D'Antlin's defense is that obnoxious communication. And we really need these guys to start tightening up what their responsibilities are, because they are athletes, Gabe. I mean, they should not be these coverage busts. No. It just has to be where they recognize what their role is in any situation. And that's hard. You don't get the practice like you do as a professional athlete. But at the same time, these are collegiate athletes that have been playing football for quite a while. Even DeCarlos, who came over and Bishop, that had previous positions. These guys have been playing their positions long enough to understand what their responsibilities are. And it's just that mental toughness. Physical beats I can handle. Sometimes you're going to slip. Sometimes you're going to tangle up legs. Sometimes you're going to turn out and give the guy inside leverage. It's going to happen, whatever. But it's the mental breakdowns that are going to kill USC, because with the exception of Oregon, and I don't know, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from this team, but definitely with the exception of Oregon, the only team there's an argument, I think, top to bottom. Well, no, that's not true. Notre Dame and Michigan. No, not Michigan. Notre Dame and Oregon, I think, top to bottom, can say that they skill wise are on USC's level. None of the other teams, and definitely not Purdue, and definitely not Michigan State. It's not even the same realm, the talent on the field. So they're going to have to tighten that stuff up, tighten up fast. Getting forward to what we're talking about is going to the Illini and playing in Champaign. These guys are going to be pissed off, Gabe. And so I'm sorry, I don't want to jump the gun. We still have to cover a little bit more, but going forward, if we could, I want to jump to the good news and what I'm seeing with the outlook on that 10-2 season I talked about earlier.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of good news, and we can't start anywhere other than Jakeem Stewart. This was his coming out party. The get off is generational. I'll be honest. He is a step ahead of every single guy on here. That's including Cameron Crawford. That's right. No more Cameron Fountain, Cameron Crawford. New name. That's going to take some getting used to. So Jakeem Stewart, what a performance. He's doing things that physically most people just can't do. And being a Browns fan, don't recommend it. Regret it. It sucks. But he does things that Myles Garrett does. I'm not saying he's Myles Garrett. I'm not saying he's going to be the defensive player of the year in the NFL. I'm not putting that on a true freshman at USC. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that physically he is different than everybody else around him. That's including Anthony Lucas. That's including Braylon Shelby. All of these studs on the Trojan D-line, he stands out in a very unique way. And you watch. That performance is going to put him on the map primarily with opposing defensive coordinators. He's going to start getting targeted. Like, not in a headhunting way, but he's going to start getting double teamed. He's going to start getting extra attention. And he's earned every bit of that. And that's only going to open things up for everyone else. And Jakeem's so fast and strong, go ahead and double team him. I don't think it's going to matter, to be honest.
Yeah, USC wasn't even approaching the 5 sacks, but I mean, the 2 sacks is nothing to scoff at. Actually, last year we've been excited about 2 sacks in the game. But I think a big function of that was the fact that you have Aiden Childs back there. Now, that's a dual threat quarterback. And I think they did a pretty damn good job keeping him contained. That in itself was a W for the defensive line that you have to give him credit for. And although it wasn't really jumping off the sheets as far as the tackling is concerned, I mean, Stewart did have the 2 tackles for loss, and then Eric Gentry always throws in his 2 for the game. But Devin Tompkins was very active in this game. He tied Eric Gentry with 6 total tackles. Now, granted, Eric's EG had 6 solo, whereas Devin Tompkins only had the 1, but he had the half sack. And playing on the defensive interior, anytime you're getting listed in the stats as a defensive interior lineman, then you know that you're making plays and you're making your presence felt. I've been really happy. We talk about Devin Tompkins, and then you talk about the 2 young guys. We thought we would talk about more about Keyshawn Silver. Remember that? I thought that would be like a big point. And even Jade Abasiri. Jade Abasiri, you guys, is doing a lot of this stuff as well. Space eating, and is just so athletic. He's just doing a little quieter than the other guys, but the young guys are getting all the attention as well they should be. I agree with you as far as talking about Stewart, but Boucard's another guy who's get off and his power and acceleration. Guys this big should not move this fast. Guys this young should not be this strong and be so violent with their hands like these guys are. These guys are going to be really good. And if you're thinking this defensive line, they're going to lose some guys without a doubt, talented guys on the outside. But we have young guys on the outside that are going to replace them. This defensive line is elite. And I think the defense, those guys are going to keep us in a lot of games. And if they can continue to develop guys like they have developed in the past, I can't even imagine what the ceiling for Stewart and Boucard is going to be, Gabe. I can't even begin to think. Let's think about just forget next season. Where are these guys going to be in game 7, game 8, the way that they are progressing just through 4 games this season?
No, you're right about that, but I do want to push back on, you said that this defensive line is elite, and I think the pass rush is elite. I think that's been proven. I don't think we're an elite run defensive line yet. I think we could be, but I don't think we are right now.
Is that the defensive line, or is that maybe a function of the linebackers and their hesitancy?
No, that's all tied into it, but you can't blame the run game on the linebackers. It is a collective effort for sure, but yeah, we don't get enough penetration in the run game. We get pushed back too often. I don't think we're there yet, personally.
There you go again, Gabe, making friends all over the place.
I know I'm the big old party pooper, but one thing that I do think is pretty interesting is when you look at who the superstars are on this team. Like, not to speculate, but I don't even want to know how much money it costs to bring in Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett. Bringing in interior defensive linemen that are very big. There are so few of them, and it's such an important spot. It's so in demand. They're incredibly expensive. Like, they're going for a ton of money on the open market right now. Weird to talk about that with college football still, but that's where we're at. But the interesting thing, it's not Keyshawn Silver who came over from the SEC. It's not Jamal Jarrett who came over from the SEC. The guys that are shining are the guys that have been developed by Coach Henne and Coach Nua. Like, internally, we're developing these guys and getting them ready to play. So this narrative that we have to go to the SEC to get interior nose tackles, I don't think it's true. I think that what we're seeing that we're not seeing on the back end, but we are seeing with the line, Coach Nua and Coach Henne are absolutely developing this young talent. Now, not to say that that's not happening on the back end, but we haven't seen it up to this point. There's a lot left to be desired with those guys. So I think the job that Coach Henne and Coach Nua have done cannot be understated. And yeah, Tim shouted him out, but Jade Abasiri, no one's talking about him. He's not making any highlight plays, but he's in there doing the dirty work. He's busting his ass every single snap. So shout out to him. He's doing a damn good job right now.
Yeah, Abasiri and Tompkins are doing that dirty work on the inside.
Yeah,
that is so crucial for the team's success. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm bullish on the inside, and I do think that we're going to see when it comes. I'm not looking forward to. I don't think anyone looks forward to Price or Love in the backfield. I think that's going to be your litmus test on what this defensive line can do, because those guys are the best in the game. And we'll see if it will be, and I will say this, if we can hold the Irish to under, I say 200 yards rushing. I know it's a lot of yards, but I think if we hold them to under 200 yards rushing, I think we win that game.
I'd agree with that, actually. Yeah, I would. Oh, we haven't talked about the linebackers yet. Eric Gentry, I guess you kind of did talk about Eric Gentry, but he's same old Eric all over the field. But the thing that stood out to me the most is the leadership. When Corey Sims committed a really bad unsportsmanlike penalty on a kickoff, I believe, and they're walking off to the sideline, and the camera on the TV copy shows Eric Gentry going right up to him. And I'm not sure if he was chewing him out, giving him a pep talk, but he was in his face, letting him hear about it. And I love to see that from Eric Gentry. That's what a leader does, holding the team accountable. And there's such a discipline issue with this team in general. We rank extremely low in penalties per game, like 130th, 129th, something like that. We're near the very bottom. And when in that third quarter, we were starting to unravel a little bit, commit a lot of stupid penalties, we let them back into the game. They had to come off the field, and Eric Gentry was losing his shit. He was screaming. He was really upset. And that's the kind of stuff I love to see, especially from a senior linebacker. Love that from Eric. Now for Desmond, it was a better performance, but still not up to where we need him to be. Like, PFF has him as our second worst graded defender at a 49 grade. 47 against the run, 55 in pass coverage. That's not up to par. That definitely matched the eye test. I would say it's a little worse than what I thought he was, because he was around the ball more. He had more tackles than he has in the first few games. And we saw less of Jaden Walker, only 7 reps. So anyone hoping for a position change, it doesn't seem that that's going to be happening anytime soon. So yeah, Tim, what did you think about Desmond on the day?
I think really I haven't changed much from what I said last week. The physical tools are there. He seems like he's in the right position to make plays. I just think, like I was saying in the secondary, I just don't see him playing as fast as I'd like to see him play. I just, when I think of that Mike linebacker position, I just want a guy that's like you said, playing downhill, filling those gaps in the run game, especially, and making ball carriers know his presence, and I think that's going to come. I just think that he needs more time. I know fans don't want to hear that, but he's still a young college player working his way through the system. And we can sit here and you could sit here and praise Rob Ryan all you want, but if you're not going to practice what you preach and say, look, he's getting coached up, we know he has the talent. The only thing that leaves is just experience and reps. And I do see a lot of hesitation, and that's the one thing that gives me concern.
Yeah, I agree. He's kind of like the opposite of Eric Gentry. When Eric Gentry sees a hole, he shoots through it blindly, bravely, just gets into the mix and makes the play most of the time. For Desmond, I mean, the tackling was a little iffy in this game. Just like you said, he's still hesitant. Now, we're only seeing Jaden Walker for a few snaps a game, really. So when he flashes, it's easy to say, oh, let's just throw him in there. And something that you said, Tim, when we were talking off air, we don't know if Jaden Walker is performing well in practice. We don't know if he's busting assignments during the game, because it's a lot more easier to cover that up with a linebacker as opposed to a corner, because when it's a corner, you see it. So we don't really know the full story with Jaden Walker. Like, he's not playing very many snaps. So it's easy to say, oh, bench Desmond, he's not getting the job done, but we don't know the full story, especially with a position like linebacker that's so intricate.
And I'm not seeing Desmond crushed. Do you know what I mean? I'm not seeing the breakdowns or the detriment we're seeing as far as like the level we're seeing on the back end with some of the zone busted coverages and stuff. We're not seeing that happening as much as far as Desmond. It's just with Desmond, I think we're all wanting to see more.
Because
and maybe it just comes from expectation.
He's so talented. We just expect the world from him.
And we need that in this scheme. We do need the linebacker to get there. We want to take the run game, which is crazy because statistically USC in the run game, we can play the explosives game again. But when it comes to just pure yardage, I mean, USC through 4 games, yes, I know who they played, has been very dominant when it comes to their run defense. So what we see, though, is that big train coming down the tracks of the teams that are definitely going to be able to pin their ears back and run, and not just pin it with power, with absolute speed. If we don't set the edge against Michigan and Notre Dame and Oregon, they're going to be breaking 60, 70-yard runs all night.
Yeah, and the same thing with Michigan. That's how they beat Nebraska. They have the same game plan as they did last year. They're going to keep it close, and they're going to hit that run outside, and it's going to go for 6. So, yeah, we need to shore that up for sure. So that is pretty much it for the game against Michigan State. Again, very good win. But in terms of the big picture and where this team's going, I mean, just in the next week, Tim, what do you think about this game against Illinois? I think it's a kind of a tricky, weird spot. It
is a tricky, weird spot, but maybe all these weird things have happened to USC so far, having Clay Helton return to the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Not that actually that's a big deal. Like only like 4 guys on the whole roster actually knew who Clay Helton was, but still, fan environment, kind of a weird, kind of a buzz. But then having, obviously the big one was having that 3-hour weather delay, sitting in a third world, camp on yoga mats. What was definitely something with the travel involved is layered. And then having just that horrible injury, the late night kick and all the stuff that was going on. Now Lincoln Riley kind of said, hey, look, it was actually kind of a good thing. It was getting this late start. A lot of the players got to bank some really good time sleeping in, coaches as well. So it kind of worked out for SC. It wasn't too late. It wasn't like the situation, 11 o'clock kick for the Spartans. But make no mistake about it. I heard people all day yesterday saying, oh, wow, Illinois sucks. They're not as good as we thought they were. They may have just ran into a red hot Fernando Mendoza and the ball bounces the wrong way. You have a blocked punt, just all kinds of weird stuff that can happen in a game and it just kind of unravels. Make no mistake about it. This is a talented team returning a number of players. Luke Altmaier is going to be one of the best quarterbacks we're going to see. And if we have any breakdowns, he's going to make us pay for that. So USC just has to stay focused. And, the self-inflicted wounds like we saw in the third quarter of this game, I don't think USC can get away with that. As a matter of fact, in a few of these games, the 3 we talked about, the big 3 we talked about, but also, against Nebraska, I think you can make those mistakes against UCLA. I think you can make them against Iowa even. God, that offense looks terrible. I think that USC can get away with it with Northwestern. But next week, if they think that they're just going to walk into Champaign and just come away with a victory, they being fans, I know that the players and coaches are going to be ready for it, but it's good. It could turn out to be a dogfight or or they may not be that good. Either way, though, it's a road game in the Big Ten, which has always given us trouble. USC's got to clean up the turnover. There wasn't a lot, but it was a devastating, just like last year. It wasn't always a number of interceptions or turnovers they had. It was when they happened. And my God, they got to clean up the penalty situation. You cannot play sloppy on the road in the Big Ten and expect to win. So next week, we need a clean game, and we need these guys, and we need Elijah back. And if Elijah's not back, we do need to see the evolution of his offensive line, and they have to figure out the communication on the back end of the defense. What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. Luke Altmaier's the real deal. That was a they ran into a buzzsaw. Like, Cignetti had them with that sort of FU mentality. The crowd was completely juiced there in Indiana. Stuff like that happens sometimes. Now, that was such a bad beating. Maybe Illinois just isn't that good. Hopefully they're not that good. But there's a lot of weird stuff, just like you talked about. The early kick, it's a road game. You know we're going to get jobbed with a few bad calls. That's what happens when USC plays on the road in the Big Ten. So this is going to be a really interesting game. I think overlooking them would be a complete mistake from any USC fan. If there's one thing that we've learned about the Big Ten, it's that the teams, even at the bottom, play a brand of football that keeps these games really close. We saw it with Maryland. We saw it with Minnesota. We saw it with Michigan State there. It was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. I know that was a lot of self-inflicted wounds, but they hung around. And like Tim said, if we do that against Illinois on the road with this early kick, we're going to be in big trouble. Now, they're going to be pissed off. They're going to be really angry. So we're just going to have to survive the opening onslaught. If we're down 7-0, 14-0, 10-0 early, I'm not going to sweat it. They're going to poop out eventually, but they're going to come out swinging. Like, they're getting off the mat. They're going to be blindly just swinging for anything they can get their hands on. So if we go into half tied or really, really closely down, I'm not going to be concerned. But the rest of the schedule, the way it breaks, Michigan looks like a much tougher game than I think it did even a week ago. I don't know where you are with them, Tim, but Bryce Underwood, that pass rush, the running backs, the O-line, they look like a pretty solid operation right now.
Yeah, Michigan is replacing a lot on the defense, but they're Michigan, and they're going to get players, and they're going to develop their lines, and their trench play is going to be really talented. So Underwood is young, and obviously unpolished. Anytime you're starting a true freshman quarterback, I don't care how good he is. There are rare exceptions where a freshman can come in and play. He doesn't at this point seem to be that guy, Gabe. I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of Michigan, but what I have watched, I have seen some of the erratic stuff that I'm expect from a true freshman. I'm not overly excited about their receivers, but again, both their offensive line and their defensive line bother me, and it could be another one of those games that Michigan's known for, where it just slows it down, makes all of those possessions important, and so that's why you got to play a clean game. The good news, we have them at home. And then I was just thinking about falling behind, and even with the Illinois game, one thing this team has shown me, Gabe, especially under Maiava, is that if they go down early, this team is shown, like, I know it was at home, but the Nebraska game, right? Or that they can come back, or if it's the Texas A&M game.
Yeah.
This team does not get rattled. And Maiava seems to play better as the stress ratchets up. So maybe that's another feather in his cap. But I wouldn't advise tempting fate, because I do think that the next couple of weeks, at least the next 2 games, is going to be one where, as I said earlier, the possessions are going to be at a premium, and they're all going to matter. So running into the punter, not picking up a 4th down, maybe not punting the ball so you hand them 3 points on your own on a short field. These are all things that the coaches and the players need to execute the next couple of weeks, because these next 3 games are definitely losable. And I think they need to stay focused, because I'm not feeling really good about USC playing. So these wins early on are going to be really important for USC to get. None more than anyone's. By the way, going back, I know I'm going on, but none more than this Illinois game, because everyone's been talking about it since the beginning of the season. But where this lays out, we're gonna have a rough spell here. This is not a must win, but this is an important win for USC. Especially, it's going to give them confidence, because the next 3 tough games, 2 of them are on the road. The one in Illinois and the one in South Bend. I think those are going to prepare us for Autzen.
All right, guys, that is going to do it for this episode. Again, any win is a good win. 4-0. We came out of it relatively healthy, sort of, I guess. Hopefully Elijah Page is, good to go next week. Tim, you have any final thoughts before we tell them where to find us?
No, nothing other than what we've said already. Just got to clean up a lot. Got to clean up the penalties. Got to clean up our assignments. Other than that, I'm feeling great as we approach. Well, we just finished 1/3 of the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. The penalties are driving me nuts. But having said that, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at the Trojan Blade. Same on YouTube. You guys have been absolutely destroying it over there. So head over there and give me a subscription. We also have a YouTube channel for the podcast. The link is in the show notes, or just go on YouTube and type in the USC Football Podcast and it will pop up. We are uploading the audio over there. Also have some fancy schmancy LA backdrop footage, if that's your sort of thing. So make sure you are subscribing to us over there as well.
And you can find me over on the USC LAFB website. We're recording this midday on Sunday. So this evening, I'm hoping to get out a photo gallery if you guys want to see some of the photos I took during the game yesterday. Also, as Gabe said, we are moving the call-in show from Wednesday to this Monday at 7 p.m. I hope you guys come check it out. I have a great time hosting it. Love hearing all of your guys' thoughts. Love hearing from first-time callers. Hope you guys can make it out to the USC LAFB YouTube channel tomorrow at Monday at 7 p.m.
Yeah, make sure you guys are checking that out. Call in. It's a really fun show. I mean, I don't listen to it because I don't listen to anything Tim does because he kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Take care and fight on.